Hi guys, in the previous video we discussed about how to create the Spring Boot project and how to connect the database by using the Spring Boot application. These two things we covered in the previous video. Now we are going to see how to build a post API in Spring Boot application. So the purpose of the post API is, so if you want to store the information into the database, we are going to develop a post API. Okay. So now, before starting to the post API, first of all, we need to create one table in the application. To create a table in our application, we need to create a entity. Okay. Now I have the main package. Okay, this is my main package. My main package exists in the com.student. Okay, this is my main package. In my main class is student information. Application is my main class. This main class exists in the com.student package. So this package we are going to call as parent package. So if you want to create any package in Spring Boot application, that should be child for the parent class. Okay, it need to be child for the parent class. So if you follow this pattern, then only you won't face any problem. If you want to create the package with a different name, you can, but you need to do some extra work for that. Okay, so we'll show you what is the, drawback if you create the package with a different name. We'll show you the issue. Okay, now my main package is com.student. Okay, now I am going to create a sub package. Okay, new, click the new button. Here we can find the packages. Okay, package. So now I'm going to give the com dot student dot. So what is the, what we are going to create here? We are going to create the entity, right? So table. So the table representation, in database we are going to call it as a table. If that representation in the application, we are going to call as entity. Okay, so now I'm going to create as a model. We can call as model also. Okay, now I'm going to create one package as model. Sorry, so I created only. So in this top, new package name com dot student dot model. Okay, now my model package is created. Here I need to create one entity, right? I need to create one entity. So entity is nothing but that is a representation of the table in the database. Okay, so now I'm going to create an entity here. Just right click, a new symbol, create class, and give the class name as student. Okay, class name is student. Just click the finish. Okay, now I'm going to mention the what are the variables we need to store in the database. What are the variables? Okay, private roll number, roll number. Data type is required, right? Data type. Roll number is mostly like number. Okay, number data type is int. Okay, next, private string name. Okay, name. Next, print longer int mobile number. Okay, I created the three variables. These are the three variables we are going to store in our database. Okay, so now I'm going to generate the setters and getters for this variables. So now right click and you will find the source symbol. Once you click the source symbol, you will find the setters and getters, generate getters. So no need to write explicitly. We can use the Eclipse shortcuts for creating the setters and getters. Okay, okay guys. Now you can see this is the simple Java class one. Okay, to make this Java class as a representation of the table, we need to annotate this one as @entity. What is this? @entity. So it is exist on Java X persistence. It comes to the Spring Data JPA. So we added the dependency, right? So to perform the database operations, we are added one dependency Spring Data JPA. So the Spring Data JPA dependency. Okay, this is the Spring Data JPA which comes from the Spring Data JPA dependency. Okay, now my class become the entity. So I need to give the specific name to this table. Okay, to give the specific name to table, we are going to use the table annotation. Here we are going to write name equal. What is the name you want to give? Okay, student underscore info. So this is the name we are going to give for the table. Up to now, we use two annotations. One is the @entity annotation. @entity annotation, it will make our class as a table, a representation of the table. Okay, and table entity. Next one is the table. Table is an annotation which is used to give the specific name to the table. I mean, this is optional, guys. If you want, you can keep it, or else optional. Okay, if you didn't mention this table annotation, by default, the class name will be treated as a table name. Okay, I didn't mention anything here. Okay, now my roll number. Every table definitely. One second, guys. I will. See, now I have the three variables. I need to map these three variables to the table columns. What is the table, guys? Table is the combination of the rows and columns, right? I need to map these columns variables to the columns. To map these variables to the column, we are going to use the column column annotation. Okay, so we need to mention the column name equal to, what is the column name? First column name roll underscore number. Second, name. Okay, we need to map the name variable also to the table column. To map that one, we are going to use the column. Okay, name. Next, number. Number. Okay, up to now, we prepare the table. So here, guys, so we have the variables on, but definitely every table should maintain the primary key. Without the primary key, if you try to run the application, it won't be run. Primary key is the must and should we need to follow if we create an entity. Okay, primary key is nothing but, so if you are taking any table, in the table the data will be exist in the form of the rows, right? So it is like row 1, row 2, row 3. So row 1 is the unique key value. 1 cannot be repeated. Row 1. 2 is the unique key value, cannot be repeated. Like that, every record should maintain one primary key value. Like let's say roll number can be maintained as a primary. Why? Because one roll number cannot be considered to the another person, right? So in this case, we can make it as roll number as primary key. To make any column as primary key, we need to annotate with at the rate ID. Okay. So let's try to run the application without the ID. We'll see what happens. Okay. I am going to run this application. See guys, so we got an exception, error creating with entity manageable, no identifier specified for the entity. That means we didn't find the primary key for this entity. That's why we are facing this problem. Okay, now I make the roll number as a primary key. Now I'm going to run this one. So this, I'm going to run this one. So now my application, it is going to run. So it's taking some time. Okay, okay, see, it is running. Okay, so now we didn't find any problem, right? So now up to now what we did, so we are creating the one entity. So entity is nothing but table representation in the application. So you have one table in the database. The table is the table contains the three columns: roll number, name, and number. It is the three columns, and roll number is the primary one. So roll number cannot be duplicate. So that's why we are making this one as a ID. Here we use the some of the annotations. First annotation is at the rate entity. At the rate entity is, purpose of the at the rate entity is, it will map our Java class to table. Like it is a representation of the table to Java class. Okay, that one. Next one is at the rate table. If you want to give any specific name to that particular table, we are going to use this at the rate table. At the rate table annotation is the optional one. At the rate column, so to we are going to map the variable to the column. So at that time we are going to use at the rate column, but this is also optional. If you don't give this at the rate column, so application will use the variable name as a column name. Okay, next one at the rate ID. This is a mandatory thing, guys. So if you create any entity, the ID should be mentioned, mandatory. Primary keys need to be mentioned, or else we will find a error. I mean, application will throw an error. It won't be. So now our entity is ready. Now our entity is ready, guys. Now what we have to do? Now we need to perform some operations, right? We need to perform some operations on the table. To perform the operations on the table, we need to create the repository. Okay, Spring Data JPA, it contains some repositories to us. One is the car repository, JPA repository, pagination repository, sorting. Like that, we have the few of the repositories which it is already contains the Spring Data JPA. We no need to write anything explicitly. We need to use the features are going to provide by the Spring Data JPA. Okay, if you want to save the record, I mean, if you want to save the information to the database, you don't need to do anything. Spring already providing the Spring Boot already providing the save operation to you. You just need to consume that save operation. That's it on. To consume those methods, we are going to create our own repository and we are going to inherit the features of the existing repository. That I am going to explain to you. Okay. See guys, how simple it is. Now we are not going to write any code. Our thing is we are going to use the existing features only. Okay. Now for creating the repository guys, for our best understanding on the standards wise, we need to follow the one structure, I mean model. I'm creating the one package. Similarly, I'm going to create the repository, right? So to the repositories, we are going to repositories, we are going to create one more package. Package name is, sorry, we are going to create one more package for the repositories. So here I'm going to look at the package name. Here comrade model. Now I'm going to give name as a repository. Okay. So I create the one repository. In this repository, I need to have the repository of the student. Okay. Now I'm going to create the repository. So repositories we are going to create for the interface, not class guys. We need to create the interface. Okay. Student. Okay. I create the repository. So, I mean, generally we can think, so here we have the only one table, but in real time, we are going to have the multiple tables, right? Every table, it contains the one repository. If it is student table, we are going to have the one student repository. If it is employee table, we are going to have the employee repository. If you want to store the information in the student table, you need to use the student repository. If you want to store the data in the employee table, you need to use the employee repository. Okay, I created the student repository. Okay, now I need to make this interface as a repository. To make this interface as a repository, I'm going to annotate with the at the repository annotation. At the right repository annotation. And this is simple interface here. We don't have any methods here, right? Now we need to use the features which are already provided by the Spring Data JPA. To use those features, we need to inherit the features of the Crud repository or JPA repository. Okay, we need to inherit that. So now I am going to extend the JPA repository. Okay, here JPA repository is the generic format. So these are the generics, right? This data types may be changed based on our table. So here in the first parameter, we need to pass the our student entity. Okay, here we need to pass the student. Okay, I am passing the student. Next is the primary key of the student. What is the primary key? Primary key is the student int. Okay, so in generic we can't pass the primitive data types. Now we are going to use the integer. Okay, so that's it. What we did, We create the one own repository. Repository is like interface. After creating this repository, what we did? We extends. What we are doing? We are extending the features of the JPA repository. So if you want, you can use the JPA repository. JPA repository is the prime repository. It will contains the code repository functionality also. If you want to use, if you are only particular about the code repository, you can get the code repository only. Okay. So now I'm using the JPA repository. So that's it. JPA repository will provide the sum of the features. You can see find all method. It is used to get all the data from the database and find all by sort mechanism. Okay. In is find all by ID, find save all, save and push, flush, delete in batch, delete all in batch. Like this, so many some of the features which we no need to worry. JPA is already providing implementation. We are going to just consume those APIs to perform the operations. Hmm? Okay. So now our model is ready. Our repository is ready. Now everything is ready. Next, we need to create the REST controller. Hmm? We need to create the REST controller, or we need to create the service. Okay. Now we'll start from the API. So now we are going to create one API to store the student information, right? To store the student information. Okay, now we are going to create the one more package. We are going to create one more package. Package is student.api. So package is create. Here we are going to create our API. API. So API where we are going to define APIs, we are going to define in the interface level. Okay, so why we are going to create the interface, I will tell you. Okay, student service API. Okay, I create the API interface. I create the API package. On that, I create the student service interface. In this service, I need to define the API. Just API definition. We are not going to provide any implementation. We are going to define the API. Okay, save student info is my API. So in the interface, all methods are public abstract methods, right? So we no need to provide the implementation for this. This is the definition, guys. So our destination we are defined. So this is the half of the definition on. We didn't define what is the input, what is the output now. We are going to define now. So now our thought is we define the only API. Okay. Now we need to think what are the information we need to capture from the user. Okay, what are the information we need to capture from the user? Okay, for that purpose, we need to check the our entity. Our entity is how many variables it is accepting as it is asking to store the information. Three variables. What are the three variables? One is the roll number, another one is the name, second one is the number. These are the three inputs we need to get from the user to store the information in the table, student table. Okay, so okay. Now it is okay. Now we are clear. What is the input? What is the input? Input is getting the three parameters from the user. So to give the input, we need to create the one data structure, user defined data structure. The user defined data structure is nothing but it is going to contain the different types of the values. That's it only. So now I need data from the user, like one is the integer, one is the string, one is the integer. So this is a two types of values. These two types of values, by using, I need to get these two types of values, right? So for that purpose, I'm going to create the one user defined data type. So data type, right? So this is the, this one in Spring Boot we are going to call as DTO, data transfer object. What is the DTO? Data transfer object. Data transfer object means we are going to get the information from the outside and we are passing that information to the information to table or entity. Okay. Now I'm going to create one more package. Create one more package. New package. Package name is dot DTO. DTO, right? So it is the DTO. What is the DTO name? Student class. Student in DTO. Student in DTO means we are, this is the input value. So what are the variables it is going to exist? It is going to exist these three values only, right? These three values only it is going to exist. What are the three values? These are the three values. Okay, these are the three values we need to get from the user. Okay, now we got it. Now we need to generate the setters and getters for this. For generate and setter getter, right click it and click the source and click the getters, generate getters and setters. Select all and generate it. So now variable search and okay, now DTO is created. This DTO we need to pass here, right? This is our API. Our API input is student in DTO. Student in DTO. Okay. So now we define our own API. Okay, we define one API, but we didn't provide the implementation yet. We define the API, but we didn't provide the implementation yet. Okay, API definition is completed. Now we need to provide the implementation. Where we are going to provide the implementation? In classes only, right? We cannot create the object of the interface, and we cannot provide the definition of the this method in this interface. But you can have a doubt. So why we are specifically going to interface? We can declare, we can do all the stuff in the class level only, right? Instead of doing interface level. In this case, this is the criteria, guys. Save student information, right? In some cases, in some cases, my application is provided to the one college. They are following the some pattern, and my application provide to the another college. They are asking to add the some business logics while saving time. They are asking to add some business logics. College A, college B, both are concept wise both are same, but the implementation is different, right? Based on the their implementation, we need to adjust at the at the time of the runtime. The system should automatically pick the which implementation they need to follow. Okay, so now we are going to create the implementation purpose. Okay, now we create one more package. New package. Packages dot impl. I'm going to create impl. Impl is created. Now here we need to create the student service. What we have to create? We need to create the student service. New class student service. So this is a simple Java class. Now I need to inherit the method. Okay, implements is the keyword which is used to inherit the interface features to class. Okay, my interface is I service I student service. Okay, now it will ask to add unimplemented methods. I added an unimplemented method. So what is the unimplemented method here? Save student. Okay, this. So now I need to make this class as a service. To make this class as a service, I'm going to use a address service annotation. So once you add this service annotation, This class is going to treat as a Spring Boot Spring Bean. The instance of this class is going to create by the Spring Boot application. We no need to worry about how to create the instance for this. Okay, Spring Boot will create the instance of this class. Okay, once you make this class as a service by using the other service annotation. Okay, now this is completed, right? This is completed. So now here we need to write the logic. What is the logic we need to write? We need to store the information. We are going to get the information from the outside. From the outside, we are going to get the information to this method. This is the input. Now we need to use this information to store the data in the database. Okay. Now we need to transfer this input to table. How can we transfer? What is our table? First of all, our table is student. Student is our table. Okay, student service. Student is our table. We are going to create the instance for this student. Okay, we created student s equal to new student. We created the instance. Now we need to transfer this information to this entity. I mean, we need to set this information. We have the data in the DTO, data transfer object. We need to set this data to table. This is the table. This is the DTO. We need to transfer this data to this table. How to say? So now s dot set name. We are going to set the data to entity. How to set? Get the name from the input object. Get name. Next, s dot set number. From where we are going to get this? This is the input number. Done. Get number. Next, we have three fields, right? From s dot set roll number. Roll number we are going to get from here. Done. Get roll number. We got the details. Now data transfer is completed. What we done? We got the information to this method. So this is the input. We have the data here. Now we transfer this data. We transfer data to entity. This is the entity. We set the data to entity. Now entity has the record. Now we need to store this information to the database. To perform the operations on the database, what we are going to use? We are going to use the repository. Okay. So we need to use this repository. We need to use this repository. To use this repository, we need to inject that particular repository in our service. How to inject? By using the at the rate. Okay, first of all, create at the rate auto while annotation. What it will do? It will inject the bean to the this service. It will inject. What type of injection it is here? This is the field level injection. Field level injection. Who will create the instance for repository? This is the repository. Once you annotate this at the repository, the instance will be created by the Spring Boot. Okay, it will create the instance. It will store in the context. Once you inject, once you write at the auto while like this, so it will search for the bean and it will inject that particular bean into our service. Okay, this will perform the injection. What we will call? This is the field level of injection. We have the two types, like three types, right? Field level injection, constructor injection, setter injection, like that. Here we are following the field level injection. Okay, dependency injection. So now by using this repository, once you see, it has the too many features. We are just using the save. Okay, once you click the save button here, we are going to save the details. Okay. Okay, up to now, what we did? We did all the activities. See guys, we did all the activities, right? So we did all the activities like creating the entity, creating the repository, creating the API, providing the implementation to the repository. Okay, so now we need to expose this method to outside. If you want to expose this method to outside, we need to prepare the REST controller for this service. If you provide the REST controller, then only it will expose it to outside, or else no one can touch this one. Okay. So REST controller is the entry point for the Spring Boot application. Entry point, guys, not the starting point. What is the starting point of the Spring Boot application? Starting point of the Spring Boot application is this one, which class, the class which is entered with the Spring Boot application. This is the starting point. But what is the entry point? REST controller. How to prepare the REST controller? Now we can see to prepare the REST controller, we are going to create the one more package. New package dot rest. Okay. So what is the class we are going to create here? New class rest control class rest. Okay, student rest. It is going to be student rest. Now I'm going to annotate this class with at the rate rest control rest controller. Once you make this class with at the rate rest controller, this is going to be treated as a controller for the application. This is going to be the entry point to the Spring Boot application. Now here, what you have to do here, we need to create the student info. Hmm? Student info method. So this is a method. What the purpose of this method is to save the information, right? At the rate post. At the rate post mapping. Once you make this one at the rate post mapping, so it will expose it to outside with a post method. Hmm? Here we need to call. So to perform the save student information, what is the API? This is the API. This API we need to call in the student rate. Then only it will be executed, or else it won't, right? So now we need to execute this one, right? So after getting the hit, we need to execute the save student information service. So to execute that one, we need to call the student information service here, student save method here. To call this one, we need to inject this student service in the controller. We know right how to inject it. We are going to simply follow the at the rate auto wire annotation. See here what I am using. I am using the interface. This is the interface. I am injecting the interface here directly. So we know, right? So we cannot create the instance of the interface, but we can create the instance of the interface by having the class subclass to it. So what we did, student, this is the interface, but we have the implementation for this. Like Spring Boot will inject the implementation class of the student service interface. Okay, it will inject the implementation class of the student service interface. After creating it, just I'm going to call the save student information. Okay, now we are ready for everything. Right? Everything, guys. Coding part is completed. Completely coding part is completed. Okay. Now we are going to now I'm going to start the application. Okay, you can see my, I mean, application got started. Okay, now what is the database we are connecting? So to check the database, which database is connecting, we are going to see the application.properties, which is the database is the test. So once you click, this is the test database. Open the test database. So here we will find the schemas. In this schemas we have the public. In this public we are going to have the tables. See, do you have any tables here? No, right? The table should be existing, right? Once you run the application, the table need to be exist in the database, right? But it is not exist. We need to create the table by using Spring Boot. Maybe normal cases the table will be existed. We are going to work on the existing table. But this is a new system, right? New table. We created our own from the application. So in this case, we are going to create the table through the application. We need to tell to the application, if the table is exist, okay, you don't create. If the table is not exist, you need to create it. We need to pass that information to the application. How do you pass that information? If you go to my YouTube channel, if you go to my YouTube channel, you will find my video. My internet is too slow here. So in my Spring tutorial, so if you go to my YouTube channel here, maybe it is internet issue. Please bear with us. Okay. Hi folks, this is a new tutorial we are going to start today. So in this tutorial, we are going to explain how to work with the Spring Boot CRUD operation. So this is a quick tutorial. We are going to explore how to create the project, how to correct the. Okay. Okay, no problem. I will enter manually. Okay. We need to use the Hibernate configuration. Okay. We need to use the Hibernate configuration property to tell to the application to create the tables. Okay. How to, what is the property? Spring dot jpa dot hibernate dot ddl hyphen auto. Here we need to mention the update. This. Okay, so it's showing something error, but it is. Usually it won't show this exception. Okay, this is a command we need to use. Okay, this is the command we are going to use. Hmm. So now we are going to run this application. I don't know why my system is too slow today. Okay, okay. Now we are going to start the application. Okay, this is the property, guys. We are going to use auto DDL command. So once you keep this auto DDL command, so if the table is not existing in the table will be created. Okay, so if it is existing in the table, so it won't disturb it. So let me check the table is created or not. So see, the table is created. Okay, so view table, click the view table. So this is the table. So this is the table we created. So if the table is exist, we are going to work with the table. So if it is not exist, we are going to tell the application to create the table. So guys, here we have the some more properties. We need to create the update. We need to keep the create. We can give the none. So if it is none, it won't touch the table structure. So it won't perform the create or update operations. If you keep as update, so if the table exists, it won't disturb. If table is not update, it will create it. If you keep the create, if the table is exist also, it will drop the existing table and it will create the new table. These are the few things we have. Okay, now application is started, right? Application is started. We need to test our application is working or not. Okay, for test this application, what we need to have, we need to have the postman tool. What we have there, we need to have the postman tool. So my tool is open, postman tool. Okay, now you can see what is the entry point of the application. Entry point of the application is student test. Once you give the hit will be come to here. Hmm? The hit will come to here. The hit will come to here, and after it will go to the student service. In student service, this is a main implement interface. From here to it will go to the implementation. This is the implement. What we are doing implementation, we are transferring the information to the entity, and finally we are storing the information by using the repository. What is the repository? Student repository. This is a student repository which we created, and we got the information from the JPA repository. Hmm? Okay, now my tool is ready. Now, okay, just create the HTTP. This is the URL pattern. What is the protocol? HTTP protocol. What is the first one is IP? What is the IP? localhost. Localhost represents my local. What is the port? My application default port 8080. Okay, this is my port. And what is the method type? Method type is the post method. And if I give the heat, let's see what will be happening. If I give the heat, so it is showing 200 exception, saving the student information. If you see, without passing the information also, it is showing the student information saved. Let's see what the data it is showing. It will store the null values. See, it will store the null values and 0. So, but my main intention, I need to pass the information from the outside, right? So, for getting the input from the outside for the post mapping APIs, we need to use the request body annotation here at the red request body. Okay, now stop the application. Start it. So now application got started. So now I'm going to give the hit again. So now I'm going to give the hit again. So if I give the hit again, what it will show? Let's see. If I give the hit again, so you can see this is the bad request. So 400 represents a bad request. Bad request means we are not passing the information it is required by the application. You can see required request body is missing. What is the request body? Student individual. So we are not passing it. That's why it is showing an exception. So this is the Java. And here we need to pass the data in the form of the JSON. In the form of the JSON. In the JSON, how data will be look like? JSON, curly braces, double quotes. Okay. What is the variable name? First variable name, roll number. Roll number is the first variable name. And here name, Shiva. Second is the roll number, name. Roll number 1, 2, 3. Okay. Name, test. Next one is the number. This is going to be the number. Here, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now I'm going to give the hit. See, still we are seeing the bad request. Why? We are passing it, right? So you can see JSON parser error. So integer. So the data types makes sense right now. So we cannot pass the 8-digit number. We'll change it later. See, now the record got saved. So you can check in the database. So you can check in the database. Test one is saved. Now I am going to change the one more record. 8 something random value. I'm going to hit once again. So I received the 200 status. That means, can I check the database again? So my record got stuck. So what happens once you give the hit? So here actually we are passing the data in the form of the JSON, but here we are expecting the data in REST controller. We are expecting the data in the form of the Java object. So, but both are different, right? Who is going to do this conversion operation? This request body is going to do this operation. What it is doing, request body? Request body is going to convert the JSON object to the Java object. Okay, it will take care of that one. Hmm? REST controller. REST controller is the combination of the two annotation. One is the controller plus response body. Okay, controller, it will make our class as a controller class. This is going to be the entry point to the Spring Boot application. What response body does? Response body does, if you are going to give any Java class outside, we cannot give the Java class outside directly. We need to give the in the form of the JSON. So that time we are going, it is going to, response body is going to convert the that Java object to JSON object. Okay, vice versa. Request body is JSON to Java, response body is Java to JSON. So, but request body is we need to mention explicitly, but response body is not mandatory. Why? Because every method need to give the data outside in the form of the XML or JSON, right? So it is common. So that's why they created the annotation. It is a combination of the both. Hmm? That's it. So once you give the hit, so it will identify the which is the controller. It will identify the controller is student REST controller. As of now, we have the only one controller. We are not mentioning any specific paths. In the second video, we are going to mention the paths and we'll discuss how to work with the path and URLs. Okay. Now I'm not mentioning any path here. So REST controller, and after giving the hit, it will identify the controller. This is the controller. After identify the controller, it will map the post mapping. What is the data type we are giving? Post type. So that's why it mapping to the post mapping. So after post mapping, so it will convert the JSON object to Java object. After converting it, it will execute the this flow. It will come to the service to implementation. It will go to implementation. The data here we have the data. The data we are going to set to the entity. Once you set the data to entity, so we are going to use the repository to save the record. So final result is this one. Okay, we are able to see the records in the database. So this is the implementation of the Post API, guys. So this video may be lengthy. Why? Because we are developing the application on live. Okay, we are not coming with the one created application and showing to you. So we are directly creating the application in the live and showing you how to create the Post API, right? In the later videos, maybe short videos, why? Because already application is created, right? So on that we are going to perform the some operations. It won't be much, so, but please watch this video entirely. Okay, then only you will get an full knowledge of the Spring Boot. Okay. Okay guys, thank you for watching this video.